Hi everybody and welcome to session 3. I'm going to refer back to my little pyramid that I shared with you guys a couple weeks ago in explaining really quickly where we're situated in the semester. We've done some HTML coding by hand and with a WYSIWYG. And in session 3 we're going to sort of change the pace and do something different. We're going to go and learn about and collect a number of rules and guidelines that we should observe in creating websites. We're going to learn about 508 compliance that's related to accessibility of your websites. We're going to learn about multimedia learning and technology enhanced learning principles. This is all about design, and this is going to be based mostly on that e-learning textbook that is free that you were supposed to download. If you haven't done that yet, you can download it now. And I'll tell you about that, a little more about that in a minute. And we're going to review copyright and fair use. When are you allowed to use an image on the website, an image that perhaps you did not create, for example? That's a question of copyright and fair use. And so we're going to review those, the law around copyright and fair use. And then from these 3 different assignments, I'm going to ask you guys to come up with takeaways, because these are very detailed things. There's lots of rules and guidelines. And so I'm going to ask that you boil it down for each of you to 5 takeaways for each one. So for section 508, you're basically going to come up with 5 evaluative criteria. And by that I mean 5 things that could be put on a checklist so that when you're looking at a website, these would be 5 things related to 508 compliance that are or are not present in your website. Same thing here. You're going to give me 5 multimedia learning principles that could be put on a checklist. If somebody wanted to evaluate a website, say, does this website have demonstrate these principles or not? And then 5 copyright and fair use principles in the form of evaluative criteria, the fancy term for it. And those will be sort of the takeaways at the end of each assignment. I have significantly reduced the load for these assignments and sort of shifted things around, which is why when I ask you to look at the course plan, you'll notice perhaps that this assignment, which was formerly 75 points, is now 50. And this assignment, A6, which was formerly 75, is also 50. And the 25 points from A4 and A6 have been given over to A5, which still has a more significant project in it. Even so, the project in A5 is not that huge, but it's it's more time consuming than what's in A4 and A6. So there was a shift there of points, just to let you know. Now, why are we doing all of this? Isn't it enough to be technically competent with designing websites? Well, no. Being technically competent is fantastic and necessary, but I would say that these items, these principles and guidelines are just as important. And what you're going to be doing, looking ahead, is in the next session, you're going to take everybody from the class's evaluative criteria from each of these areas, and you're going to begin drafting your project plan along with an evaluation sort of checklist for your website. So you're going to dream up a website, probably an educational website, probably to be used in your classroom or in your school setting, and not all of you are in a classroom or school setting, not all of you are working right now in a classroom or school setting. So I want you to dream up an appropriate website, and you're going to start planning that out in session 4. And alongside that planning, you're going to do the very important crafting of an evaluation sort of plan and instrument that will be used by one of your peers in this class to actually evaluate your website later on in A9, 10, and well, actually technically through assignment A11. You, for example, will evaluate a classmate's website using the evaluation instrument they have created based on this session's work. So that's where we're headed in the future. Let's dig into this stuff. It's not as fun maybe as building websites. I don't think it is anyway, but it is as important as knowing the technicalities of building websites. So let's go check out the session really quickly. Okay, so I click the content button and I'm down here in session 3. And I am going to delete this page, the summary of session 3 assignments. I've made you guys a checklist, which remember you can check these items off. And yeah, it's the 3 main areas of 508 compliance, MML-TEL, and copyright and fair use. And again, MML-TEL is multimedia learning, technology enhanced learning. So let's go on through. This is your welcome page where this video will be. And a reminder that the course plan is something you should check out every once in a while. I am going to delete this summary of session 3 assignments page. That was something I found useful for the previous, more technically detailed assignments, but these are pretty, I think they're easy enough to figure out on their instructions pages. So in the 508 compliance, just a quick walkthrough. You want to read this stuff, and then the project has 2 main parts. Part 1 is you're going to test a few web pages that you choose, and you're going to pick 2 tools from the Web Accessibility Evaluation Tools list, 2 tools total to test the 2 pages that you've selected on the web. And then you're going to do a little report that you submit as a Word document or an RTF document to the Dropbox. The second part is that part where I talked about takeaways. So the takeaways are the evaluation criteria. These are the things that will eventually become a checklist. And here I've put a snapshot of a more in-depth checklist. This is from a previous teaching of this course. These are items of criteria. These are examples of criteria. Please don't just take these and try to come up with your own, but you can certainly seek inspiration from these. But this example had way more things. So if your gut tells you to do totally different criteria, go with it. There's more than 5 criteria that we should probably be looking at for 508 compliance. And hopefully with 20 people in this class crafting 5, we will cover a lot of what we need to. So this is an example maybe of a piece of a final evaluation instrument looking at 508. But all you guys have to do is kind of write a statement or a question, criterion related to 508. Here's just one example. Moving or blinking objects can be paused or stopped. So that's an evaluative criterion related to 508 compliance. And you can write that as a question or a statement. Here's the survey, and basically all you have to do is tell me your name and then type in each criterion in those boxes and submit it. And then in terms of your project submission, you just need to submit for part 1, which is where you had the Word document with the report. You don't need to submit anything for part 2. And I just want to remind all of you, in case you didn't know this, or tell you in case you didn't know this, in CourseDen, the Dropbox will not allow you to submit unless you have added a file or recorded audio. So sometimes in this class, even if it's not even necessary to add a file or record audio, because you're going to see an example in a minute where the Dropbox, I'm not even asking you to turn anything in. I'm just asking you to turn in the Dropbox. Well, still, in order to turn in the Dropbox, you have to either add a file or record audio. So just be aware of that. It may be confusing sometimes when I tell you, don't turn anything into the Dropbox, but still you need to add a file and record audio. That might sound very strange to you. So that's coming up. You'll see in just a second on the next assignment. So let's look at A5 very quickly. This is the multimedia learning assignment. I do want you to sort of skim read parts of the e-learning book just to kind of remind yourself what it was about. I believe I asked you to skim read parts of it previously, earlier in the semester. Check out these multimedia resources. And then the first part 1 of the project. Now remember, this is the biggest, most in-depth project of this session. Excuse me. Basically, you're going to go to this wiki page. You're going to choose one of the chapters from the book from this list, you're going to edit the page, and the page is set up to where you do not have to be logged in to the West Georgia Wiki system to do this. It's a public page. And you are the claimant, and I want you to claim your chapter. And the rule is, please, if you come here and somebody's already claimed a chapter, but there's another chapter available, then please claim that chapter first before I have a second person. I would like all of these to be covered. And so I kind of have two rules. If you get here, please claim an unclaimed chapter. But if you get here and all chapters are claimed, then just make sure you're only the second person to claim it, if that makes sense. Only 2 people can claim a given chapter. And then eventually, after you've made a presentation, you're going to link it here in this column here. So we'll come back to this in a minute maybe. So you're going to pick that, you claim that chapter, and then you're going to read it in depth, and you're going to create a presentation to teach about the concepts in that chapter to someone else, including people like your classmates, because your classmates will want to be able to quickly refer to these resources when they're kind of developing their own evaluation strategies for their website. You're going to include graphics, text, optionally include audio, and try to include some relevant examples from your work or from examples you find online to sort of illustrate the concepts that you're teaching us. Be sure to put the names of all members. Remember 2 maximum allowed. First name and last initial are okay. Why do I do that? Well, because I don't really expect you to put your full name on these projects because it's out of respect for your own privacy. And in fact, if you prefer, you can actually put a pseudonym. I forgot to mention this to my students this semester, but in the past I've always told you guys, for anything you post online, if you would prefer to use a pseudonym for privacy reasons, just let me know through Coursed-In messaging, and I will, make a note of it and make sure that I know that. And then you can, whenever you're turning in work in a Dropbox, you can be like, remember, my pseudonym is Jacqueline Rabbit, or whatever it is. You just let me know. It's not a big deal. And then again, remember I said you need to go back to this table and give the link to your presentation, okay, so that we can watch it. And then again, like the previous assignment, you're going to have your takeaways in the form of 5 evaluative criteria related to multimedia learning. I do want you to draw those from your chapter that you specialized in. That's your specialty, that chapter that you presented on. So draw from that to come up with your 5 evaluative criteria. And that will really help us come up with a lot of specific multimedia design criteria for our websites. And then you're going to share those evaluative criteria through this Google survey, just like last time. And again, I will share the whole classes. I will just make that whole spreadsheet publicly available to you guys to download and use however you want, so that when you're making your evaluative criteria, sort of refining them in Project A7, you have that as a resource if you want it. Project submission. This is one of those Dropboxes where you don't really have to put in anything, since your work is on the wiki page above and it's in the Google survey. So this is one of those weird situations where you do have to just submit a blank Word document. I mean, you can put whatever you want in there. You might make an audio file, but the reason we do this is so that I can still give you feedback in the Dropbox. And it's a good way of just letting me know, okay, Dr. Hewitt, I finished this assignment, please grade it. So that's one good use of a Dropbox, even if the Dropbox is empty. Finally, copyright and fair use. It follows the same rhythm as the previous 2 assignments, and I've only got about 50 seconds to explain it anyway. But read and watch these materials, and then all you have to do on this is locate and share the best copyright and fair use resource that you can find. And then I want you to go to this wiki page, put your name, link to the resource, do a nice descriptive link like this, and then give just a sentence or 2 telling us how to use this resource. And it was my hope. I really hemmed and hawed. Do I do this assignment? Do I keep it? And I thought, yes, let's keep it, because it could be that folks really come up with some good resources that other people can use. I did not want to include this if I thought you guys were not going to use this page, but I think there's a possibility that you will, which is why I kept it. And then part 2 is again 5 evaluative criteria about copyright and fair use. My time is up. Let me know if you have any questions and enjoy.